Hello, welcome to the newest episode on the Bombcast. Now, today we're going to be trying something a little new, where we're gonna have a little shorter episodes, but we're gonna talk more in depth about games and the franchise and stuff. So today we're gonna do something a little different, and we're gonna be talking about, instead of the game design, we're gonna be talking about the story of Kingdom Hearts. And I'm joined today by my two friends. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
I guess I'll go first then. It's hello, I am Claire Firedragon. I'm here to talk about Kingdom Hearts and have fun.
And I am Tyler Martin, and I agree with that sentiment. Just want to talk about some Kingdom Hearts and have fun.
All right, so on this episode of the Bombcast today, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts 1, and Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. I'm just going to say this right now, it is not really a story synopsis. We're just more or less going to be talking about just what bits of the story that we like, didn't like, some things we may have contention with, and it's going to get more and more timey-wimey as we go through this series of episodes. So stay with us about this. So let's just jump into this. So the first thing we're talking about is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. So let's just start off with just what do you guys think of the story of this game?
Oh, it Birth by Sleep personally, out of all the Kingdom Hearts games, is probably my favorite. Um, because it was released. How many years? It was like eight.
Yeah, around
About
8.
but around 8 years after Kingdom Hearts 1 first debuted, and it gave us a glimpse into our first glimpse into the past and kind of where everything really started. And it the story was just, to me, it was great because you got to be able to experience it from three different points of view. From the three main characters, you had Aqua, Terra, and Ventus, and it was a different play style. It had new mechanics that had never been seen in Kingdom Hearts before, and it was just refreshing. Even though it was, first for the PlayStation Portable, which was very odd, but you know,
They got to release it on any sort of system. If you didn't own, every single system known to man, you didn't see the original release.
exactly. But thankfully, 10 years later, they've released all the games on
The
most major
collections.
platforms.
In the collections. First, more or less in Japan, then here. So in my opinions on this story, I personally think it's a pretty great story. I love the fact that there's three different perspectives with Aqua, Terra, and Ven. I personally like Aqua's just a bit the most in my opinion, just because you can get a bit more meat, and it's obviously trying to set up for later games. But at least all of them are. But you know what I mean. And
I I kind of agree with that. It Out of the three, it was kind of obvious that Aqua was the main focus of the story. It kind of catapulted her as, even though they all three were protagonists, she was the main protagonist of the story.
oh yeah, well she's supposed to be the mom, so she has the most sense on her shoulders, unlike Terra, for instance.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So anyway, according to the notes that we have here, first thing, at least I can, doesn't matter what order I want to go in, but I want to talk about just Xehanort, the big man, the guy who's just the saga is named after. And this is pretty, I know this is technically not where he starts, but this is just the one that we're kind of sort of the beginning of where we kind of meet up with him.
Yeah,
Just essentially just trying to get the Keyblade, and that's with an X, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's a Greek, I think, like alphabet thing, but still. And how does it? And it is just the amount of hands that he's in with, especially with Terra. It's astounding just how the heck he didn't get caught. Like like seriously, like with the Mark of Mastery, for example, when he shows up and Ericus just looks at him, I would think like, oh my god, that is the most bad guy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, when I first see him, my first thought was immediately, he's evil. Like, he just had that look about him as this is not a good guy. But of course, you find out that they were old friends, so Eric has kept, he always gave him chances, and just as the good guy that Eric was.
I like.
I mean, and at the beginning of the story, we had no idea what Xehanort's intentions were.
Well, technically we did at this point, but it's. I like to think that just Eric is just like, hey Xehanort, how we're doing? I want to destroy everything and make a new world. And Ericus just goes, it's Xehanort, you're such a kidder. Come on, let's go show these three impressionable use about these Mark Mastery exam, which is light balls.
Yeah. I mean, that was sort of I know that's one thing that everybody kind of makes fun of, is how the Mark of Mastery exam and that was different from what we experienced later on. But I mean, it was more of along the lines of that was more of a traditional Mark of Mastery because everything was normal at that point. And then when we see later on was one of those, this is a matter of utmost urgency and we need to make sure you are very ready.
So with the urgency being urgent, you must go into sleeping worlds. But if it's normal, just smack some light balls. We're good.
Also, Tara, you clearly failed because I saw some darkness. I saw the aura right there.
Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people have different opinions on it, but Ericus, in my opinion, was too focused on the light. He was literally blinded by the light so much that any hint of darkness, he immediately the first thing that came to his mind was evil. You must be purged. And Xehanort had this opinion of darkness is not inherently bad, which I actually agree with because he's actually right.
Yeah, because as we go through the series, you learn that light and dark is only good when they work together, and that's how the most powerful Keyblade wielders are made.
Yeah, because one cannot exist without the other. They have to coexist in balance.
You can tell this with Terra, which I want to actually get into right now. With Terra specifically, out of all three of them, he is considered the powerhouse, and and he does have access to things that no other character can, like all the dark moves and such, and with like the dark aura and stuff with the drive stuff, and it kind of just shows just how powerful a Keyblade wielder Terra is. Not only because he's able to, as you go through on the story, realize that his darkness is something that can be controlled, but can be used to protect others, like with Ven and everything.
Yeah, he kind of shows throughout his journey that you can wield both, but his journey also shows the struggle because he's trying to stay on the light side of things, but his anger makes him easily give into the darkness to the point to where it almost completely consumes him. And so there's always a constant battle going on within Terra, seemingly throughout the whole story after the Mark of Mastery exam.
Well, yeah, it doesn't help that in his story that he meets up with pretty much all the bad guys, and he's the one who makes friends with all the bad guys, including Maleficent, which is just, you look at her and just like, how did you not think that this was an evil person to meet up with?
To be fair, you may go first.
Oh, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, to be fair with Maleficent, he didn't fully trust her, but then she did manipulate his darkness to control him. Yes,
she did, because she does have those powers that we had obviously seen with Riku. She can easily manipulate somebody's desires or their darkness. But another thing that I think that Terra has that a lot of people probably overlook is, you got to think, Ericus raised Terra and Aqua from when they were small children. So that mindset of trying to trust people and see the good in all people despite their leanings, I think it's why Terra comes off as so naive, because even though he knows that they're probably evil, he's trying to be like Ericus and give them a chance. But of course, it never works out.
Yeah, it never. I like to think it never does. Or just, Terra just doesn't really think straight. Well, then I guess it's also the fact that Ericus kind of teaches them to look at the bad Xehanort man. He looks fine. You see the darkness at that you see how he murdered that child? No, he's fine. He didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, there comes a point to where, after trusting so many people like that, he should have honestly just been like, you know what? Maybe this is not the best path to go.
Exactly. But speaking of characters that can get themselves in situations, then Ventus. Oh, you gotta feel bad for that kid.
The most traumatized child in all of Kingdom Hearts.
Literally.
I like to think Sora would have been, but I think Ventus would be a close second in my opinion.
I think, well, after seeing all that we've seen throughout all of the games, I would beg to differ that Ventus is probably the most.
Be very fair. He was living in the Sora Heart Hotel for years, but even with just Ventus was supposed to be the Sora of the group, at least for that game, but just he's supposed to be the little brother to Terra and everything, but just him having to literally deal with his inner demons. You gotta feel bad for the kid. Also, the fact that he almost died. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
And the poor boy, somebody needs to give him some caffeine because he can't stay awake.
No, not at all.
I mean, he's always sleeping. I mean,
yeah. Hey, he doesn't age when he sleeps. Maybe that's why he sleeps.
I mean, he is 1,000 who knows how many years old, considering he's from the Union Cross era.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily that old. Just he came from that era, but I mean, of course, that's probably going to be some other time. I could get into that quite a bit, but
we'll worry about that when we get to Union Cross and stuff. But the fact that Ventus has to deal with the fact that Terra's essentially kind of separating from him, and he has no idea why. The fact that Aqua's kind of trying to get him back, and just the fact that he's just kind of going through on his own little adventure to kind of realize my friends are my power, because we have to have that in every single game.
Yep.
Just Ventus is just, again, he's the little brother that we sort of wanted, but you gotta feel bad for him when he essentially he kind of dies. Kind of. And by that I mean his heart just gets sealed in and his body is just trapped in Castle Oblivion.
True.
Empty coma. He was in technically 2 comas. The very first one when his darkness was ripped away, and then the second one when his heart was damaged after killing his darkness.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is that you wouldn't think from his darkness getting ripped out of him, his alter ego is a chain smoker, aka Vanitas.
From Hot Topic.
Yeah. It's the most contrasting voice and look to Ventus possible. I mean...
Question, why does he look like Sora? Why does he look like Sora?
I know the answer to that. It's in the novel, it gives it more of an explanation that when Ventus's heart first connected with Sora, when he was just kind of dying on Destiny Islands, that connection also affected Vanitas, which in turn gave him a face. Because beforehand, he was a faceless darkness with just red eyes.
Yes.
Oh.
Because the darkness within Ventus was technically not originally part of him. It was a separate entity. So Sora's heart taking refuge in Ventus had an effect on both of them.
Huh. Okay, at least that answers that
question.
Ventus'
heart taking refuge in Sora. I got that completely backwards.
Don't worry about it. Everyone likes going inside Sora every now and then.
Kairi did it. Sora went into Sora went into Data Riku. Ventus went to Sora. It's complicated.
By the way, they just like being inside of each other.
Oh my god. Anyway, something that is something else that I think that's interesting is the introduction to Braig, because he's like the most unimportant character in the entirety of the series. Don't you know?
True. And it's funny, looking back now at that game, now after what we all know, it's so obvious that they were dropping small hints that he was important, and some of the things that he said have so much more meaning now. And it's like, they really got us, because it's like, oh, we didn't think anything about that now, and then 10 years later we're like,
Exactly. And just with kind of just the things that Braig has said and more or less done, it's pretty clear of what his thing is. By the way, we don't have to just dance around the issue. We can talk about it. We can talk about just stuff. I don't exactly care. If you want spoiler, just alert for the entire thing. But yeah, played it right now. I'm pretty sure. Why are you here? But with Braig more or less just being Lushu, it kind of just opened up so many doors of, oh god, he's probably gonna either be the new villain, preparing stuff for the next one, or just having to do something with the box. But it's something.
yeah,
I like to think it's something that we can kind of get into it a bit more later as we go through this series. But with Braig,
yeah, one point I do want to touch on real quick is, there was one part that everybody had thoughts about when Braig saw Ventus, and he said something about being a true Keyblade wielder. I can't remember the exact wording, but that scene, everybody was thinking, oh, nobody knew what he was talking about. But now, knowing that we know that he was Lushu, and he was from the same time that Ventus was, he had seen Ventus before. He knew who he was already, which is why he made that comment, but nobody knew it at the time.
It's like that really weird sort of world building that you have no idea about. That's like it's planted in there, and you have no idea what it means. But like when you find out, it's amazing. It's like finding out that old Captain America was at the funeral, and I think it was one of the Captain America movies. It's
Yeah.
It's amazing that just Braig was very much set up for these future games with what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and he took a lot of risks, because he never used his full power. He restricted himself.
He didn't use a Keyblade.
He almost got killed by Xehanort at one point. At which point I feel like his plan probably would have went to crap. But
imagine where do you think the box is just randomly there after he dies?
He also willingly lost an eye. Probably not willingly, but he did lose an eye, and
he was really into his character. He didn't want to break his cover.
Yeah, he was like, I can't. Well, we all know he just wanted to be like the Master of Masters. He was like, I need to be like the person I look up to. I need to sacrifice an eye.
I need eye for the eye god. Eyes. Speaking of which, since Braig reminds me of this is also the introduction to Radiant Garden as well. We pretty much get to see Radiant Garden more or less in its heyday, along with Ansem the Wise, along with his guard, which pretty much just shows off. It sets up a lot of points, sets up more or less Organization 13, Kairi, because she's still living in Radiant Garden, and she gets the Keyblade from Aqua, which honestly just. I don't know why you'd give a Keyblade to Aqua. She is a plot device, the character.
I feel like the transfer of power from Aqua to Kairi was not exactly intentional, because we knew earlier on. For example, I'm going to go into a whole because it just crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
When Terra and Aqua at one point they visit Destiny Islands, and they encounter the young Riku and Sora. Well, Terra, of course, bequeaths the Keyblade's power to Riku, and Aqua almost does it to Sora. But she says, no, one of them will be enough. And so they go on, and so the whole thing with her bequeathing the power of the Keyblade to Kairi later, I don't think she did it intentionally, but it just kind of happened.
Oh yeah, she didn't even know because she was looking and Kyrie came by and just kind of put her hand on the Keyblade when Aqua wasn't looking, which means the Keyblade actually can choose to bequeath it, not you, because Aqua had no idea it was happening.
I like to think that the Keyblades just have minds of their own sometimes, or at least whatever.
I mean,
or whatever Tetsuya Nomura wants to do.
And it probably also has to do with Kairi's mysterious backstory and, you know, which we don't know yet, sort of, if, you know.
Maybe it explains why Axel gets his Keyblade later. Didn't he technically touch Ventus's Keyblade? I don't think he actually used it, but he touched it.
He touched it. He did touch the wooden one, yes.
I like the fact of just if you touch a Keyblade, doesn't matter if it's real or not, you just automatically are able to get a Keyblade later in life.
So Jack Sparrow is going to be a Keyblade wielder.
Yes.
You might be the worst Keyblade wielder I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me.
Oh my gosh.
If Jack Sparrow became a Keyblade wielder, though, that would be the most hysterical thing ever.
Oh my god, yeah.
That would be so random.
Alright, let's get back on topic. One of the things that I like to think about just, it also kind of just kickstarts Maleficent's plans, along with just Pete being there randomly.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, look.
He was kind of randomly there.
And like when he ends up going back into the, like, going into getting banished, Maleficent's like, I think that you can be my minion.
Yeah, Pete didn't really have much of a purpose in Birth by Sleep, to be honest.
I think Pete was there for fan service and also to explain, because I think they mentioned Pete was just like a banished, but we had no idea why, and apparently we needed the backstory for that.
That's because he's such a vitally important character to the series.
I know. Who could forget the time where in KH1 where he just gets beaten up and then gets his minions beaten up and then he runs away, or we beat him up and then he runs away, or then he goes with his boss and then she gets beat up and then they run away,
or the time they beat the wrong Pete up and stole his boat
and then he runs away.
Yes.
Pete does a lot of running away. He needs to reach out to the truth and firmly grasp it. Maleficent's more kind of like a background villain in this game.
Yeah, she does have her moment where she starts, the beginning. She encounters Terra and hears these, foreign words of Keyblade and other things, and she starts to adventure out there and wants her goal of all the princesses gathered to steal their hearts. So they start hinting at those things from the very beginning.
Good thing it took a few years for it to happen. Otherwise, they'd be screwed.
It took her 10 years to gather all the princesses, possibly because she couldn't find Kairi. Oh. She already had Aurora, which that's sad. Aurora must have been sleeping for 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Or more. I don't remember.
Hey, to be very fair, she didn't age.
Hey, she didn't age. None of the princesses aged. The only person who aged was Sora.
Yeah, Sora's the only one who's not immune to that.
Yeah, sad Sora. And Sora was in an egg pod, too. You think that would have slowed the aging process.
I know. Let's move on. This is also the game where the mysterious figure shows up, which is supposed to be the first appearance of young Xehanort, I think. Of him doing travel through time.
Yeah, we don't know that, of course, because he doesn't reveal himself. He's just the mysterious figure that everybody remembers kicked their ass in Birth by Sleep because that fight was ridiculously difficult.
Especially if you're Terra. Oh god.
Yeah, especially if you're Terra. Like, he just has it out for Terra. It's just like, I'm going to murder you.
Hey Tara, do you have a dodge roll? No. Guess you're dead now. Guess you'll die.
Yeah, that fight was not fun. Um, it's like you're fighting him, and then it's suddenly like, oh, suddenly lightsabers.
Hey, you look familiar. I'm gonna go now. We. It's not as dumb as just, well, I guess you can say the final bits of the game or finally gets to the game story can be a little dumb, but the whole point of just like with Xehanort's big plan, like he almost succeeds in this in like one game, with him being almost able to conjure up the Keyblade using Ventus, him getting Terra's body just because he got really mad after Ericus died, because Terra
Yeah.
killed him, and
I
then
think there's. Oh, go ahead.
you have Aqua just trying to stop it all and succeeding in neither.
I think the thing that Xehanort didn't count, because he planned it, but what I think he didn't count on is number one, Ericus's heart took shelter inside of Terra's heart. I think that helped to some extent, not completely, obviously, because Xehanort did assume pretty much complete control over Terra's body. But there, of course, was a purpose behind that happening. And then also with the Ventus Vanitas merger, of course, we see there's some inner turmoil in Vanitas himself. Close to the end of BBS, we see. So that's a whole nother thing to unwrap. But the other thing is, I think Xehanort underestimated Aqua's power, because in both instances, she basically kicks both of their asses.
But
She beats Ventus Vanitas, and then she beats Terra Xehanort by herself.
Yeah, it's why she's a master. But like,
I mean, because it's even stated that her magic power is second only to Xehanort.
and what should you get for her trouble? She has to lock up Ventus inside Castle Oblivion after turning the realm of departure into Castle Oblivion,
Which was quite impressive, by the way.
I don't get what, like, I didn't know. I don't get why this is like a mode where it's just like, I need to disguise this place. Where do I hide it? Maybe I can just do it in my childhood home and just become a hobo for a while. And then the moment she ended up turning it into Castle Oblivion, she realized that she left all of her money in her room.
Yeah, it was more of a protection thing, because Castle Oblivion, if I'm not mistaken, is said to have infinite rooms or something.
Yeah, infinite rooms, and you can essentially do a bunch of shit that we'll talk about later in Chain of Memories. The Chain of Memories go through, but and she ends up getting cast into the realm of darkness after trying to save Terra's body.
That was what messed everything up.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, I understand trying to save him, but I don't know. Like, the thing that I thought was always weird is, you know, why did she just give her armor to him, like, and then like push him? I'm like, what purpose did that serve?
To save him, obviously.
Yeah, I have to admit that didn't make any sense to me.
I think she thought saving the body would be good enough. To be very fair, I don't. Freaking Xehanort ends up losing his memory the moment his plan succeeds. Anyway,
it's true. I mean, which did work out, because it halted his plan for a long time.
Until Sora and the crew got in and started everything.
It's true. But I mean,
it's dumb.
I feel like that Aqua didn't have to sacrifice herself, but
it's anime bullshit.
I mean, I was gonna say, she could have very well found a way to take them both back up, or at least if they had both ended up in the realm of darkness, then Terra Nord wouldn't have caused so much trouble over the next 10 years. But she decided to sacrifice herself because she thought everyone else had died, probably.
I think, to be very fair, if Terra Norton was stuck in the realm of darkness, I think it would have been worse since, since Xehanort knows how to really control darkness, he'd be more or less in his own element. He'd be able to control the Heartless, I think, at that point, so Aqua would have been dead. So I think... I don't think...
even though he can control the darkness, it is stated that the Heartless and darkness in the realm of darkness itself is much more powerful than in the realm of light. So Xehanort might not have been able to do it initially but I mean, we never know because, we never know what journeys he was on before all of that happened. So
yeah. So honestly, even though like we've been shitting on this game for a bit, I still think it is probably has an amazing story that just opens up all of the plot threads to all the Kingdom Hearts games going forward.
Oh yeah, I mean, even though there are some instances, of course, like we've gone over, that are not exactly the best writing scenarios, in my opinion. But even throughout all the games that have come out, BBS is still my favorite. Narratively, and personally, Aqua is my favorite character, so I'm a little biased towards that. But I really do like her story, and the way her character is designed and
I personally think
told.
Aqua is just best girl. I can't, like, let's not beat around the bush. Aqua is just best girl. Nothing to say.
Yeah, I mean, she's like the only person in the series that actually really does anything useful besides saving
Sora, Riku, and everyone else. Maybe I'm just mad that Kairi doesn't get any development, but we'll talk about that in the next segment. Alright, and let's move on to KH1. So, the beginning of the series here, back where we get introduced to Sora, Riku, the plot device is known as Kairi, and all things in between. So, what do you guys think of the story of this game?
Well, Kingdom Hearts 1, for, many people, was the first one that they played. It was the first one I played, obviously. And so, while it is old, coming all the way back in 2002, it still has a lot of good elements in story. Gameplay is a bit clunky, but we've covered that before. But it still started off many people on their journey of seeing, Final Fantasy characters talk with Donald Duck.
And Potato Sack Xehanort.
Yes, Mr. Potato Sack.
There's a bunch of things that it's kind of more or less introduced into the series, with Sora more or less being the chosen one, but not really. Riku just being jealous because he's the worst, and a bunch of other bullshit things like Kairi in general. I don't like Kairi. Can you tell?
I wonder if he doesn't like Kairi.
Nah.
I know. I mean, how could people tell?
I don't know, man. Seriously, she's not a character, and this game is probably one of the worst offenders of it. Besides a lot later on, but I'm just gonna get this out. Fuck Kairi. She's not a character. She is a plot device. The whole reason that she is in this game is to be the princess that Sora ends up saving every single time, and it doesn't get any better for her character. It sucks.
It's pretty true.
Like, honestly, I needed to rant about that before we jumped into it because I couldn't hold it, and I really wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, she never serves any real purpose, especially in 1. I mean, sure, she somehow, later on brings Sora back, of course, if we're jumping to the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, that was still a ass pull, in my opinion.
Do you think when she was in the Heart Hotel, and yes, we're going to be going into Sora's heart the Heart Hotel from this point on, do you think when went to the Heart Hotel, she saw Ventus just laying down there saying, "Hey, first time"?
But Ventus was sleeping, so obviously she's just talking to this person just snoozing there, and she's just like, "Hey, you awake there? Hello?"
Well, Ventus's heart was in Sora.
Sleeping.
Eh.
Yeah, and just don't forget, the famous line talking about that. It's like Sora's like, Kyrie's inside me.
One of many infamously misspoken out of context lines that Kingdom Hearts is famously known for.
Like who else?
Yes.
Like who else will have ice cream with? Isn't this romantic? To be very fair, that one was for me, and a bunch of other things that are just funny. But we'll get to them when we get to them. But us we just Destiny Islands. It's just it is an amazing place. I think I remember reading something about how both the writers and Nomura kind of just wanted to, like, the whole inspiration behind Destiny Islands was essentially the perfect vacation spot. If I remember correctly.
I would definitely go to Destiny Islands. It looks very peaceful, very nice for a vacation.
Well,
Yes.
besides the Heartless eating the world and everything.
Yeah, but that didn't happen until later on. But I mean, can we talk about let's see. No, it's like one of the first parts, of course, when you start the game is, hey, help Sora collect pieces for the raft. And that was just, it's like, okay, I'm getting introduced to the game, whatever.
It introduces platforming into that game, but like it's
Pretty early on.
Riku's kind of a dick though in the first bit, just kind of like, hey, I want to name the raft, and Sora's like, no, I do. And it's like, you know what? If I want to name it Highwind and everything. And I know like the whole point is like they were trying to go on a raft to kind of explore the world, but oh god, I just realized something. Do you think like if they actually left Destiny Islands like they did, do you think they would have ended up like in the Realm of Darkness or something?
Well, you know what happened in Dream Distance when they were on the raft. It all inevitably failed, but it's possible.
It's like
It's possible since the two worlds, but now granted the two worlds were not connected like the shores of
Destiny Islands, yeah.
yeah, the shores of Destiny Islands were not connected to the Realm of Darkness until Destiny Islands fell to darkness. So it's possible they could have just found another world or maybe another piece of land. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know how worlds warless work, but like even with that, they kind of were planning on just leaving their parents, like left them to wonder if they're dead or not. Like even Sora's poor mother, like made dinner for him, and I'm pretty sure, as far as we know, she's still waiting on that dinner.
Nearly 20 years later, and he has not come back home to eat.
We only know, though, that only two parents exist. We know Sora's mom exists, and then if I remember in Birth by Sleep, Riku says that his dad was the one who took them out to the islands because they were too small to go on
Yes.
boats by themselves.
We
Kyrie, I
don't.
think, lived with the mayor.
Yes, Kyrie was raised by the mayor.
Yeah, and we're friends with like Titus or Titus. It's Titus Waka and Selfie for some reason.
Officially, it's Titus.
It's Titus. You can't tell me wrong. You can't tell me. Go in the realm of darkness along with everyone else, along with Destiny Islands.
It's such an interesting combo, though, because it's like they want to introduce that this is a crossover with Final Fantasy, so they picked two of them from 10, and then one from 8. And then when you get over to, Traverse Town, you get one from 8, and then a bunch from 7.
Well, because 7 was one of the most popular things at the time, and 10 was, I think, one of the more recent games of the time.
It's just a funny thing. You gotta wonder, like, because obviously their stories are different within the continuity of the Kingdom Hearts world. So if Selphie ever met Leon, or if Cypher ever met Leon in this context of Kingdom Hearts, it would be very interesting.
I think they would never met.
They probably would know each other, kind of like how, but we don't know that though. I mean, it's kind of like how now, I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, Aerith and Tifa never met in the series. So we don't know if they would have known each other or not.
Yeah. Speaking of meeting,
Tifa, we'll get to Tifa in Kingdom Hearts 2. There's a little loop around her that we'll discuss.
Yeah. I want to get into the introduction to the Disney stuff, specifically Doland and Goopy. I know what they're called. I'm calling them that from now on.
I remember when I first played the game and I got to that portion, I thought it was the funniest thing when Donald Duck freaked out because it was Donald Duck, and then he electrocuted Goofy. instead of just waking him up.
Yeah,
Good memories.
I totally didn't expect that because when you first play the game, it's like, oh, I don't know what to expect. It's Disney, yeah, but you know, just immediately setting Donald and Goofy as your companions, it's like, okay, this is an odd trio.
Fun fact. Fun facts. When Disney did want Donald and Goofy in as the partners, but they would only be, but Nomura and everyone else wanted to give them like regular weapons and stuff. But Disney said the only way they can really be party members in the game is if you give Donald a stick and Goofy a shield. So that's why they have what they have as weapons.
That doesn't make any sense. Disney's reasonings behind some of their does they just don't make sense.
They wanted to give Sora a chainsaw, and that's what you think that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
And
that's
a line hybrid as well.
By the way, editor, put a picture right here of Sora with the chainsaw. I'm talking about like the original art that you can find online. I'll just put it around here because
that would have been weird.
The lion hybrid chainsaw wielding Sora kid.
Yeah, but instead he gets like goofy boots and stuff like that. But
clown shoes.
He gets clown shoes. Clown shoes ends up in Traverse Town and then gets hit with a fireball by Leon. Well, I call him...
Look, can we just all agree that all the main characters have clown shoes in Kingdom Hearts 1 and later on? I mean, they all have feet that are as gigantic as their head.
Yeah. No.
Riku's feet get better though. Everyone else, I can't speak for them, but Riku's is the only one who's reasonable.
I love how we get into a tangent about feet.
I want to know their shoe size. If Cinderella's shoe size is 4.5, what size are Kyrie's?
Probably about 14.5.
Who knows? They shrink. Except for Sora's. Apparently he gets bigger. Don't ask questions. But with speaking of stuff with introductions, the Final Fantasy characters I like to think are very well portrayed in these games. The voice actors aren't as good for Aerith specifically, but
it was the first time the 7 characters were getting a voice, with the exception of Sid. Rest in peace, not voiced Sid in Kingdom Hearts 1. But it was the first time they actually could get a voice.
Aerith though just doesn't get better though. She never does. Even in Remind, like she just doesn't get a better voice.
Her voice actor over time does get better. And Remind, her voice was fine. Like her voice, even in because her voice actor even in the Final Fantasy games and movie was perfectly fine.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like that maybe the issue was not her voice, but maybe it was the writing and how they designed her character and told her to act.
With Aerith, though, I was going to add, with what Tyler was saying, it might be of just how the director was directing them, because it's the first time you get to voice this character. It's like, hey, we don't know if it's true or not, but it's like, you get to voice this girl for the very first time. She's never had a voice before. Here's all your stuff.
Speaking of voices for the first time, can we talk about the awful decision for Sephiroth's voice in this game?
I was gonna say, you're gonna mention the infamous.
He gets better, and by that
no, he doesn't get better at all. And I'm so glad that they got George Newbern on later on, because he is Sephiroth. I mean, can we just omit his voice from Kingdom Hearts 1 and just forget that it ever existed?
That's how Sephiroth got better, was he got a new voice actor.
Well, no.
Yes.
No offense, he tried, the original guy tried, but it just didn't fit.
Yeah. Wow. I like to think so too.
And I'll tell you why this happened. A lot of the voice actors that they were getting for some of these characters were former Disney child stars, or people who were associated with Disney.
Well, yeah,
that's their problem. They got people that probably shouldn't have been there, or maybe couldn't voice act worth a flip, but they did it anyways because they were associated with Disney. And well, you see how that turned out.
It gets better as we go through, but it's not as bad as just like some of the stuff from the plot, but like it's a lot better. Something that I think is a lot better, just the integration with the Final Fantasy VII crew. I like to think that it is a very well integration. You can kind of see both these worlds kind of colliding into one. Like they did.
Oh yeah,
I like to think that Square did a really good job kind of integrating both Disney and Final Fantasy into this world. You can kind of believe it, except
they really did.
Yeah, I can believe that Aerith is giving exposition to Donald and Goofy while Donald also gets 2D splatted into a door. It makes perfect sense.
It makes complete sense. Don't worry about it.
Can we also talk about the fact that Donald was like the only character to memory that actually broke the fourth wall?
Yeah, that's pretty true. Is that a flare?
Well, no, I'm talking about in Kingdom Hearts 1, he literally pulls the camera down to his eye level.
Hey, this was the first game they're trying to be experimental.
Donald was the true master of masters because he could break the fourth wall.
Oh my god. Imagine the Master of Masters voice, but instead of being Great Chase, it's Donald.
No.
Yes, my master, I shall do it at once.
Just no.
I'm editing that later. Not for this podcast, mind you, but just something for myself.
Yay.
But speaking of which, this is actually kind of where the first time where a bunch of these Disney worlds are kind of just put in more of the spotlight, and it's actually worth a damn.
Rest in peace, Tarzan, though. We miss it.
Tarzan know what to.
Yeah, of course, pretty much the first Disney World, if memory serves me correctly. It's been a while since I played Kingdom Hearts 1. Believe is Olympus, or not really Olympus, the Hercules
Wonderland.
World.
It's Wonderland.
Well, Wonderland, but what I mean is like the one that I remember from the start of the game the most is Olympus, because
Junior Heroes.
I don't know, I don't know, Wonderland to me wasn't that impactful, I guess.
Platforming, but it had platforming.
You just go through it and then you're just like, I'm done. The Hercules World, I think, was very impactful because it had so many. It was one of those that really combined the Disney and Final Fantasy elements so well, because you got to see Cloud there, and you even got to fight Cloud, which was really cool.
He was holding back, I think.
Yeah, and then that was the first appearance, I believe, of Sephiroth as well.
I don't think you actually get to see him until you fight him as a super boss.
Yeah, he's only the platinum match.
Yeah, he's a boss, but I mean, I think there's some hints to him in there.
I think that's why he's there, actually. Besides, I think Ares doing all that stuff.
Yeah, because Cloud kind of hints that he's searching for something or someone, and I kind of feel like that, he's basically out looking for Sephiroth to get revenge. But that's just my headcanon.
I like to think that the moment, like, all you need to do was go in the platinum match and find him. He didn't need to look that far.
Speaking of something I just thought about, I'm going to backtrack for just a minute to BBS. We didn't talk about Zack being in BBS #1.
Yeah.
So, yes, he had a short appearance, and yes, he was flirtatious with Aqua like crazy, because that's just how he is. But, I mean, I think we can all agree that Sephiroth probably killed Zack in BBS. At least that's kind of our headcanon.
Yeah.
Which is probably why Cloud is going after Sephiroth.
It would make sense. It would make complete sense, considering Sephiroth is just kind of there. And Cloud's clearly looking for him. Because
Sephiroth also is just like the ex-boyfriend that won't leave Cloud alone, but also constantly keeps just playing along with Cloud's delusion that he is Cloud's darkness.
Yeah, I like to think he's.
They're connected. They're connected because they bring in their connection that they had in Final Fantasy VII into the Kingdom Hearts universe. And
essentially. Yeah,
they just explore it more of Sephiroth being his darkness or something like that. But they have a strong connection, because a little bit of deviation, even in the Final Fantasy VII universe, is hinted that if Cloud didn't exist, Sephiroth wouldn't either.
Oh yeah.
after he dies the first time, but that's a whole different story.
Anyway, moving back on track here. Like one of the main plot MacGuffins in this game are the Princesses of Heart, which like are supposed to be the princesses from each of the Disney characters and stuff. And what are your guys' thoughts on the Princesses of Heart? Would you think it was a good idea to kind of be there, or just more or less MacGuffins that really didn't need to exist?
Well, it's part of the world story building, and they don't do much until you arrive at the end. The only weird thing I have on it, saying that Alice, a little child that isn't a princess, is a princess of heart, but Ariel is not. Maybe because the princesses of heart can't be fish.
Yeah, I just think that the Princesses of Heart are just kind of like, I know it was pretty much just a way of kind of including them into the main plot towards the end in Hollow Bastion, but like they weren't really needed. I like to think you could have done stuff without them. It's kind of like how Kairi is just a princess of heart because even though she's technically not a princess that we know of, because she has no idea about her own past. Because again, she is not a character; she's a plot device. The Princesses of Heart are just kind of they're kind of there, and they're just more or less something from Maleficent and some Secret of Darkness to collect. But I like to think that's just it was the first game. They kind of needed to incorporate something, so I give it a bit more of a pass because of it.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like I said, for me, it's interesting to see because they want to pick the iconic characters, saying they're actually these magical beings of pure light, but they also don't do much because we captured all of them. Maybe that's why Ariel wasn't one, because she could actually fight. Ariel's one of the 3 females in Kingdom Hearts that actually can fight.
Oh my god, you're right.
Because it's Ariel, Mulan, and then Rapunzel.
Well, of the Disney characters, I can include Aqua over there, but
female Disney characters that are not main characters.
That true. Something I kind of want to really touch on. Like we mentioned this earlier, but this is also a bit where like Future Xehanort also appears because he's supposed to be Potato Sack Xehanort, and it's all his fault. It's pretty much all his fault. He sets the plot in motion.
Yes, it is all his fault.
What's with Future Xehanort? I don't get him. What was his plan?
Future.
I mean, we know that, because we find out later, of course, Potato Sack Xehanort was Anthem.
Yeah.
He just did not have a form at the time until he possessed Riku.
Exactly. And like he pretty much kind of worked off of Riku's jealousy because of just how one-dimensional his thing is of Sora has friends that aren't me. I'm gonna go and be evil now. And even Maleficent didn't even have to try hard to bring her to his side, to her side.
It wasn't really that. Because his whole thing was jealousy over Kairi, because I like to think that because before Kairi came to the island, it was just Riku and Sora. And I feel like that Riku kind of felt like that after Kairi came into the mix, after he discovered, they had been going to the cave together, they had this secret place together. And I think that Riku felt like he was being left out, even Sora and Kairi trying to convince Sora to just leave Riku on the island, them go on the raft together. I feel like that Riku at some point just felt like that he was being left out and was afraid of being left behind by Sora. And he got mad and jealous over it. And I can't really blame him because realistically, I hate to say it, ever since Kairi came into the picture, it kind of ruined things between Sora and Riku a little bit.
To be very fair, it doesn't really help considering they're pretty much the best power couple.
Yes, of course, but yeah, like Tyler was saying, there is that scene where Kairi's like, Riku's acting strangely. We should just leave him behind. I'm kidding. And it's like, hello?
She wasn't kidding.
Yeah. She wasn't kidding.
It's like, if Riku had heard that conversation, he would have been very hurt because, Sora, he does care about both of them. feels lonely, especially
Clearly,
you
because
know,
one more about the other, but
yeah. He cares deeply for Sora, his best friend, that they promised as little tiny children to protect one another because they love each other. He's their
Mm-hmm.
best friends. But yeah, especially that chalk drawing that they made when they were little. Riku probably has seen that one of Kairi and Sora feeding each other the Paopu fruit, and he feels probably a little sad that he was being left out from that.
oh yeah.
So when Maleficent comes along and she starts saying, he's replaced you, he's forgotten all about you, he's now friends with this dog and this duck, he doesn't actually care to save Kairi, because while Riku may be jealous, he still cares for Kairi, but here he sees this woman of high power magic manipulating his thoughts and feelings to feel like Sora, his best love, true love, has betrayed him.
Everybody betray me. I'm fed up with this world. That's what happened. And then
Pretty much.
Ansem Seeker of Darkness just took control of Reku's body and just essentially took form at that point. Because that's how that works.
These poor Riku finally gave in to all his jealousy and darkness, and then let a creepy spirit possess him, which turned out great, but it also set him on the path for redemption.
Oh yeah. Because take care of Kairi for me, but that didn't last long. But
Take care of
take care of Kairi for me.
Where's Riku? That's how it went.
Yeah, immediately after he disappeared. Where did Riku go?
Yeah.
The end of KH1 though was honestly just a little powerful. Besides, shirtless Mickey. You gotta love shirtless Mickey.
I thought you were going to say shirtless Ansem first, but shirtless Mickey too.
No, shirtless Mickey is the only thing that matters. It's like
Shirtless Mickey, yes.
Shirtless Ansem. First Ansem, we've seen it before, but shirtless
What
Mickey.
about that merman Sora?
Oh no! Don't remind me about Sora nipples.
Shirtless Sora.
It gets worse with KH2. I don't like it.
When he becomes even more scrawny and more nippled?
Yes.
What?
It's like Mario with nipples. It's weird.
Okay.
Yes.
I get weirded out by weird things. Imagine that.
On the topic of not Mario nipples, but can we talk about though how throughout the Kingdom Hearts game, every time the villain tries to summon Kingdom Hearts, it's always different. Kingdom Hearts 1 was a door.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was a moon.
An artificially created moon.
Well, no, no. Don't you remember? Kingdom Hearts is light for some reason. Even though
no, that was Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 1 was Kingdom Hearts is light. Door opens.
Even though I'm pretty sure that was the door to the realm of darkness.
It's just going by whoever calls its name. It will do what you say.
Because that's how the realm of darkness works. You gotta love an ex machina when you see it.
Who doesn't love an ex machina?
And there's also that part that everybody cries at where Sora kills himself to save everyone.
Yeah.
And then he was gonna die. But then he didn't.
Don't worry, Kairi's bullshit powers they have no idea about just manifests.
She hugs him, the light bursts out, and then he's hugging her, because that's how that works.
And then Roxas is somewhere. He's over there somewhere.
He was born, and then it was the beginning of the end, but also the beginning.
The beginning of just everything, including
the beginning of the beginning.
But in all seriousness, this story is the jumping off point to what most people kind of go through, and I personally think it is really good at just kind of is a standalone story, because dang it, they had no idea if they were gonna make another one, considering just how weird of an idea this was. And and it pretty much opened up a Pandora's box, if you will, of just more Kingdom Hearts BS that we go through, and we'll continue that with Change of Memories. moving on to Chain of Memories, aka Recap Central. The first time they did this, because they've done this more than once.
Many, many times do they love to recap, but this was the first one. Originally, the game was on the Game Boy. And then they said, let's put it on PlayStation, because that's a good idea.
Well, because it was the more common console among everybody, because not everyone opened the GameCube. I meant Game Boy, sorry.
But they did make some changes, of course, and added some things. I think that, I think that having it on the Chain of Memories was a good idea.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things that they did end up changing, like the battle system using cards. Because everything is built by cards, including Sora's memories, which he keeps losing.
The magic of cards, though, you gotta wonder. Aqua made it so people could never find their way in Castle Oblivion, yet the whole half of the organization set up shop in there.
Yes.
It would have been kind of stupid if they ended up finding Ventus. Just his body just in there.
It would have been interesting, though, if Marluxia ever did, but we didn't get to see that.
Just Aqua's armor, for some reason, I think, in there.
Yes, you have Xemnas just, serenading her armor.
I think that was in the Chamber of Awakening, not in Castle Oblivion, because again, you get lost in Castle Oblivion.
How do you get lost in Castle Oblivion? You just go up.
You go up, but then there's like 70 rooms, all different based on what cards you put into the door.
And based off plot convenience, based on just who enters the room first. Because it's only Sora's memories, and then he keeps losing them because of Naminé, who is a person who I actually do like unlike Kairi. Because it's also, I think this is the first game where we get introduced to nobodies.
But we don't know they're nobodies yet, because they never actually call them that.
They call themselves the organization.
And it's just the organization, opposed to later on when they reveal it was Organization 13.
Yeah, because half of your force immediately gets wiped out in this game. Good job, guys.
Oopsie doopsies.
But I like to think that the entire gimmick of Castlevania, Castlevania, yes.
Castlevania.
The crossover we always wanted.
Sora just goes up to Marluxia and says, "Die, monster! You don't belong in this world."
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, Castle Oblivion's whole gimmick, I think, is just really cool, just with cards and memories. Which makes it like a very great place of hiding then.
Yeah, Aqua really thought that part out, so... But it's also a good thing Marluxia and everybody didn't lose their memories, but that's also because Naminé erased Sora's memories.
Also, they kept teleporting. They didn't just go up, they teleported all around.
They cheated!
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
When you have instant teleportation, Goku style, not quite.
Yes, let me just use instant transmission, because I can just do that.
Hey, they can. They just use doors to darkness, which is just cheating.
Darkness within darkness within darkness.
Just with a super mega darkness explosion within darkness. Just, Marluxia just coming in doing stuff, just going, "You idiot poop face, you activated my trap card."
Oh my gosh.
Go for it, Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Would you stop erasing his memories? But I also do really Naminé as a kid, their whole plan with Naminé and everything, with just trying to erase Sora's memories just to make him fall in love with Naminé, and then just taking him to the dark side, because I think that's how that plan was gonna work.
The plan was to erase Sora's memories and replace them with Naminé's memories so he'd be willing to save her, but then also Marluxia wanted to make him a mindless puppet so he could be easily controlled with the power of the Keyblade.
Yeah, that didn't really work out for any of them, did they?
The villains never succeed. It's all called the story.
Except for Axel, because, you know, he just immediately murders some fools.
He
This is true.
He sets one on fire and then uses a child to commit murder in the second one.
Hey, to be very fair, it wasn't a real child.
Replica is a real boy, okay?
No, he's not. He's like Pinocchio.
He's not wooden.
But he's not a real boy. The Recuplica. Oh boy, the Recuplica. I know they were trying to shoehorn Riku just being in the plot, but like, the Recuplica. I know it was supposed to be just it was a test.
That name is awful, by the way. I'm just saying.
The Recuplica, yes.
Replica.
I'm calling it the Recuplica because that's how I've been calling it for years.
Alright, people gotta vote in the comments. What's better, Replica or whatever host says?
As far as I remember, Replica is actually the officially accepted name.
Screw the rules, I have money. I'm just gonna make a bunch of references to cards in this part. Because, you know, that's how that's gonna work. But,
Cards.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I want to go back to Naminé for a bit, just because she actually does shit, and I'm happy that she actually does shit.
But can we please give her something more than just a tiny dress?
She's been wearing that for years.
Just a tiny white dress is all she needs.
She's lived for 2 years. She needs a different dress. If Shion can get a dress in Kingdom Hearts 3, give Naminé something other than her nightgown.
Hey, they gave it to her at the end of KH3.
Not Naminé.
Naminé, maybe she likes to wear it. Who knows? She's been wearing it forever.
This is true.
In her little sandals.
Oh yeah. It is still a little sad just towards the end of the game where Naminé just really wants to be with Sora. You see like a spark of something there. And just,
well, she is the technical nobody of Kairi, so she's got them feelings.
Kairi never really truly had feelings for Sora, at least at that point in time. You know, like that. But Naminé just straight up went for the jugular and wanted to just... She wanted to be with him, man. And then one Sora's like, I'd rather have my memories back. And then Naminé's like, oh, okay. And it just shuffles off. It's sad, man. It's sad.
Sora still wants to thank her in the end.
Thank Naminé.
Will he ever get the chance?
Nah, but we're going to be talking about it in a journal for like 3 games after that.
Continuously, we'll never get to thank Naminé, and when we do thank her, Sora says it's not official.
Wah. Well, Jiminy will write it down. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jiminy is a part of this, isn't he? I keep forgetting that he exists.
He always is sadly forgotten, and then Kingdom Hearts 3, which we'll get to later, they really shoehorn him in that he is important.
He is important. I am important. My name is Jiminy. I am important.
Jiminy also likes to hide out in Sora's hood this whole time, so all those times Sora's dodge rolling or getting smacked around, poor Jiminy is probably not very happy.
Nah,
No, I would assume not.
Nah, he's fine. Kind of.
I want to see Jiminy Cricket fight.
How would that work?
I don't know.
Not
He'll
very
be like
well.
Ant-Man.
Don't talk about Ant-Man and fighting right now. You know what I'm thinking about.
Yes.
Speaking of moving back on topic. This is also where we get introduced to Diz for the first time.
D-I-Z
Diz. What was the acronym supposed to be for?
Zero and darkness.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, darkness and zero. Wait. Darkness and Zid.
Yeah, Zid. Darkness and
Zid.
Zero. Darkness and zero, yes.
Yes, kind of just being there just after Riku just somehow escapes from the realm of darkness and then immediately finds Castle Oblivion. Because, you know, he can smell darkness.
Zexion and Riku are the only ones who can canonically smell the darkness.
That is a weird plot point that is never brought up again. By the way, like, can we just?
They're just bloodhounds, is all.
And Mickey isn't who? Mickey isn't.
Mickey's a mouse.
Yeah, but he has Pluto, who can be probably part bloodhound or something. We
Maybe.
never did find what was in that letter that Pluto had, did we?
Oh, I mean, at the end of KMart's 1, no, the letter that we got from Pluto was the letter where, I think at least at the very end, you see like that message that plays out, but we're not exactly sure.
What does it say? Thank Nominee. Who is this Nominee?
It's from the future.
You know, that would make complete sense. Yeah. It is just... I know there is a completely logical explanation of how Mickey escapes the realm of darkness along with Riku, but just... I still think it's weird. Like, besides Riku just coming across Castle of Oblivion, going through murdering some fools after murdering some fools, just shows up and just, like, keeps fighting with the darkness inside him. Because, you know, if he was dark once, he can get dark again. Woo! Yep. Chain of Memories is not one of my favorites.
Well, it starts Riku off on his redemption arc of trying to remove the darkness, but then learning he can't remove it and he must find that balance by using the darkness. And that's where it starts off his great character development.
That he will repeat for most of the games.
Oh, not really. It's just more further development of each time he's in a different step of his. It's like not quite the 4 stages of grief, but it's maybe it is. You'd have to decipher it. He's angry about the darkness at first.
Isn't there 5 stages of grief?
Did I say 4 stages?
Yes, you did.
Oops.
I personally liked the story of Chain of Memories.
Really?
Yes, the story for Chain of Memories, in my opinion, is, to me, it's one of the best ones. It reveals quite a lot about all of the characters, of course, but it really kind of it's really the first introduction to the organization. It's the first introduction to a lot of the characters that end up becoming prominent later on, aka Axel, Thyax, Xemnas, who, I mean, you can say some of the others, but those 3 specifically.
Well, technically Roxas too, because of
Roxas, of course,
because of Twilight Town being like a big thing.
But those few characters are very important, and they play major roles later on. I mean, especially we know Axel's role in Chain of Memories was extremely important.
A hitman.
You know,
being a hitman.
Yeah, I mean,
double agent.
Pretty much, but the story of Chain of Memories was, because it's fleshed out pretty well. Because, I mean, who would have thought that Sora becoming a Heartless in 1 would have caused everything that happened leading up to Chain of Memories, because it created his nobody in Roxas.
And created Nominee, because Nominee technically is
Nominee
a
was
nobody.
Created, Nominee was created from the combination of Kairi and Sora's hearts when Kairi's heart was inside of him. I believe.
I thought it was
that's
more
why she can
of Kairi.
What was that?
That was more or less kind of the memory of Kairi.
No, it's the fact that she was, Kairi's heart was within Sora when he released it. Nominee has the power to affect, Sora's memories specifically and everyone connected to Sora. Which is why, even though it's kind of an odd plot hole, Riku never says he loses any memories, but when Nominee is restoring them in 2, he mentions how things are hazy in some areas as Nominee is finishing the restoration. And then Leon and everybody are like, we forgot about you. Then we remembered you. This is not my Leon voice.
We forgot about you, but then we remembered you, because that's how memories work. Yeah. Nominee's power is scary, though, I like to think. That's really fucking scary. But I think it like like through this game, it kind of just opens up a whole kind of thing with not only Roxas but Shion, because I think where that's how they explain with Shion being in the picture.
Yes.
Honestly, I don't think the story it's not the worst one in the Kingdom Hearts series, but I personally just don't like it. Only just because of the amount of stuff they have to they recaps through a bunch of it with Sora just kind of going into one world and just go, "Hey, person, I remember how's it going?" It's like, "Who are you? I don't know you." And it's like, "Oh," and then it's like Sora just gets the lesson of you need to keep the people that are close to you just right next to you because you could forget about them at any moment.
Very ominous and foreboding.
Yeah, and then Sora just as he's climbing just keeps getting to the point where he just gets this artificial separation BS between like Donald and Goofy. And it's like, you know what? I don't care about you. I cared about Naminé. Only Naminé. There was
Only her.
there's only her. Would you kindly go get Naminé for me?
Oh yeah, that's Sora's story. In my personal, because Riku's fan here, I preferred Riku's side of the story, where we got to see his struggles and also how Riku gets the most crap beat out of him. He gets pummeled to the ceiling and recovers, and then kills Lexius,
Don't worry, he's
and he's
fine.
a
Just like 5 broken ribs.
and a broken spine probably.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's all good. He's a happy boy. Not quite yet. He's getting there. He's working on it.
And then
And
can I also mention the organization cloaks just shielding them from darkness? How the hell does that work?
magic.
I don't know. I just feel like if the organization saw Mickey in his cloak, I think they know who it is. Like
Probably.
I don't know. There's no problem. I think you could see his face is one of the most recognizable things in the world. So, just like he looks really dumb in that. Just saying.
But we have to have that Kingdom Hearts 2 reveal where he whips the cloak off like a badass.
We'll talk about that later. They'll pay for this. Do do do.
But I mean,
Do do do.
hmm.
I think that's really dumb. But like, even though like both Mickey and Riku become BFFs from this point on, they somehow still separate by this point for some reason.
Well, they went off to do their own missions, but that's in a different game. That's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just kind of leaves him there. Kind of just leaves him though. Like the moment they like reunite.
Well, they walk off together at the end of Chain of Memories, but then when you get into 358 and 2, they've, over a year's time, done other things. They're not attached at the hip, you know.
Yeah, you got a
One
point.
And one thing, if you want to talk about Riku's story some more, one thing that, you know, once you beat Chain of Memories, opens up a new game mode to where you can play through from Riku's side.
Alright. The Riku's side is just
the Riku side to me was very interesting because you're like, okay, how did he get here? What was he doing? And you finally get to see what all he was doing. And I mean, of course, you'll see this later on in 358, but you know, it really goes to show Riku realized what he had done was wrong, and he spends so much time trying to make up for it and make things right and try and help Sora as much as he can to get through the issues he's having to get through. And he sacrifices a lot to do that.
He does. He does, along with just kind of teaming up with Diz at that point because of just a bunch of other things. Because I'm pretty sure this is also the bit where like Diz's plan gets set into motion for his revenge. Because this is pretty much, I think, after he gets sucked into the realm of darkness and then gets out. I swear, everyone can get out of the realm of darkness but Aqua. That is a revolving door for everybody but Aqua.
The realm of
Unfortunately.
Because Riku somehow gets out. Like he meets with Aqua, but like
Well, he doesn't meet with Aqua.
yeah,
Not in.
that they do. It is a thing that happens, and we will.
It was a retcon to be saying Aqua was technically there at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, but Riku was too blindly oblivious because he was running towards the door because she never existed before.
Yeah, I don't know. He kind of just forgets about her. He just kind of leaves.
Oh, Mickey forgets about her. Riku didn't even know she existed.
Yeah, Mickey, Mister. Oops, I kind of forgot Aqua was in the Realm of Darkness for 10 years.
Yeah, you would have thought. I know Mickey didn't want Riku to jump in and save Aqua or Sora like recklessly, but when the two of them were in the Realm of Darkness, they could have gone looking for her.
Or
Because they were already there.
Should have.
Yes.
Or Mickey could have left with her, but again, I guess that is a topic for another day. But
like I said, it's a retcon because she didn't exist before this.
That is very much true. So, final thoughts on Chain of Memories?
I love my Riku and his development, and Riku Replica is a real boy.
Chain of Memories was one of the most important entries in the series because it explores it introduces, number one, a lot of different dynamics to the story, but not only that, you get to see some initial interactions, I believe, with Roxas, because Roxas makes an appearance here or there in the game, but the main thing is that the whole time that Sora was in Castle Oblivion, even to this day, he can't remember any of it.
Oh yeah, because he ends up having to lose. He has memories reconstructed towards the end.
Yes, because those are the only memories he can't remember, and it's kind of funny because everybody else remembers except for him.
Yeah,
I said Riku does remember, but Sora doesn't. But those memories are still there. They're just unconnected.
Actually,
I would think that at some point
what?
that they would have just filled him in.
Nah, they're too stupid. Actually, that brings up a point. How does Riku remember going through retain his memories going through Castle Oblivion, but Sora
Because
doesn't?
Namine wasn't erasing Riku's memories. She was only erasing memories that Sora had of past events, but disconnecting the memories of Twilight Town, of Sora's experiences, made everyone connected to Sora, like, not Twilight Town, Travis Town. She undid those memories, so everyone that he connected with in Travis Town forgot about him. Riku only had portions of that, so that's why some things are hazy, but he never forgot because he never was one that had his memories erased.
I guess. Okay then. Well, I think that should wrap up this episode. This episode of the Bombcast. We will talk more about the next set of games. I believe they are 358, KH2, and Recoded. Maybe with more people, maybe with less. Who knows? But is there anything that you guys would like to shout out or anything like that?
Nah, I'm good.
Nothing that I can think of.
All right, then I guess that'll be it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.